Hello, everybody in the YouTube world. It's your boys, the Graders Notes gang, is here for a new edition. And yeah, myself, Mr. Miracle, Gino Presents, your host for this evening, Metarog, are all here, ready to make it happen. Let me pass it over to the hostess with the most, Metarog. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for the tag there, brother.
Hot tag.
Hot tag. Once again, I am honored to be joined by these three fine and august gentlemen on our pursuit of the deep diving into another issue in which we will this week. It was my choice, so I'm curious to see what my three colleagues think of this somewhat quirky series, Sensational She-Hulk, from 1989, written and drawn by John Byrne, good friend of our friend Mr. Miracle Comics there, and you know, one of my favorite artists. Before we start that, I would like to introduce the crew. I think Kenny did, but I find it that I have issues if I don't give props to these guys that put up with me every 2 weeks. We'll start here from on my screen from left to right. We have the vanquisher of the vapors, the wrestling phenom. He is on more shows than Johnny Carson when he was on every night. The best, the most, the apex, Comic Head 84. Say hello to these fine folks.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the very kind and generous introduction, Roger. Appreciate it, brother. Too kind.
That and more, buddy. That and more you deserve. Next, we go to the brainchild of this, shall we say, venture. The extraordinarily talented editor, the incredibly in-depth reviewer, and if you are into Friday the 13th, guys out there, you have to see his reviews, because let me tell you, once I see his review, it brings back all those memories of Metarog and his teen and early 20s, and just how I just absorbed those movies in the theater. The Lord of the Lexicon and the man behind Grader's Notes, Gino Presents. Say hi to these fine folks, Gino.
Hello, fine folks. Great to be here tonight. Yes, I am indeed the editor-in-chief over Genome Presents. So I'm no Tom DeFalco, but, you know, I get by. Yeah, I'm more of an idea man. I like to put these ideas out there and let other people run with them. Final 13th, Friday the 13th series is off and running again. I'm halfway through. Well, not even halfway through yet, if you count Freddy vs. Jason, so which most people do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and meet our final presenter from the Great North.
Yes, here last but definitely not least, the man who has last Grader's Notes. I got many comments about his tough but succinct and honest opinions, and he is, you know, let me tell you, the terror of the tundra. The Yeti of the Yukon, but the spectacular speculator here on YouTube, Mr. Miracle Comics. Say hi to these folks, Dave.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Roger. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grader's Notes this week. I don't know if it was succinct. Is that a really nice and polite way of people were making the comments about me?
What's a good thesaurus word for eviscerate? I'm not sure.
Right. Or that guy's a
disembowel. How's that?
He's a bit of a jerk. Anyway,
never a jerk when you're honest.
Looking forward to diving into the She-Hulk today. Yeah, interesting issue. We'll say interesting.
Uh-oh. You make me nervous when you have that little smirk on your face and you say interesting there, Dave. But that's okay. That's okay. We are here, and that's what's good about Grader's Notes, is that we got four very different point of views. We pull no punches. We come ready to rumble, and we put our grade on the line every single time that we do this episode. Okay, so I'm going to act like Kenny here, and I'm going to see who's in the chat first before we go on. All right. We got Uncanny Kyle Walker all the way from New Zealand. Thank you for joining us. Runs in the family, Chad. The man is completing amazing runs, Batman, X-Men, all kinds of stuff. He's over in Atlanta. Killsing Inferno, again, I see him all the time on Genome's live streams. Thank you for joining us. The Great Stay Puff 1983. Thank you for joining us here. Perry Comics, my brother from Florida. Ooh, great shows. He's got that, what is it called? Read It or Leave It. That
Bio Pass on New Comic Book Day with the comic triple threat, Jabroni and Rod.
Jabroni and Rod, yeah. Great trio there. Floridians and a Texan. Unruly Simeon has been doing a lot of videos, well, more videos lately, and very knowledgeable. I would not want to go one-on-one against this guy in a trivia contest.
Simeon, excellent member of the community, man. Good dude.
Absolutely. And Mr. Gretzky is in the house. One of the few Archie collectors, but he's also got an incredible amount of comics and collections out there. And he's a very big supporter of this channel and the No Face of Chat. Thanks for being here. Steve Whiting is in the house.
Stone Cold Steve.
Yeah. And we got the model vault up in here too. Guys, I am like so honored that you were able to join us here. We had like almost no time to really advertise this, so you guys are A1 in my book.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, guys, shall we get started, and so we can give these fine folks what they want for the bloodbath they want? All right. All right, as I was saying, we're going to be talking about the book in front of you here on my screen, Sensational She-Hulk #1. We're going to cover, as usual, the cover art, the interior art, the story, the concept, and the overall grade. We each will go around. Genome, are you going to do the timer for us?
Yeah, I'm going to get that set up here.
You got the turkey call ready?
Just about.
All right.
Give me one
second. We will be starting, gentlemen. If you want, if you don't mind, I'm going to be starting this time with the concept itself. And there's a reason why I want to start with this, because as we all know, this one is a little different than most comic books that we have read. Even if you go from the golden and silver age to modern, this is a very different kind of comic book. So I wanted to start with the concept because I think it is pretty different from most. So let's get it out of the way. Let's start with the man from up north, Dave, Mr. Miracle Comics. What say you about the concept of Sensational She-Hulk #1?
The concept of She-Hulk #1, like you say, like there's a lot of going on here. It's very comical. It's a very sort of whimsical take on the She-Hulk, right? Has some interesting characters in here, and the whole idea is there's some sort of mystery character that's trying to investigate the She-Hulk and developing some sort of plot against her, and he employs a group of people called the Circus of Crime, right? Which immediately, if you have the Circus of Crime as your main villain, you know that this book is not going to be a very serious, dark Batman style type of book. It's going to be much more on the frivolous sort of level, and it does. You know, it's not. It's this issue basically has what all issues that are #1 have, and that's first issue items, right? Where they have to go through the whole thing of who is the She-Hulk, why is she here, what's her little bit of her backstory. I mean, there's some good spots in here where we're like, it kind of like where the concept is of her being investigated for some sort of other nefarious purpose from behind the scenes allows John Byrne to kind of have her exploit her story to the villains for a reason. So that was good. Like everything that happens in here, John Byrne ties together very well in concept wise, and he needed to have a story that he could bring her origin story out without just for no reason, right? Just having it there. So, having these sort of sub criminals working for a head criminal trying to find out information about her, right? So that's a good idea when you're doing a first issue and you want to have a reason to have that origin story, have the character tell that origin story or whatnot. So the concept is good. I don't particularly like the campiness. I never found that the She-Hulk really lended herself as a character to being that Deadpool kind of side, character. She was in the Savage She-Hulk. She definitely had a much more serious side. She was a woman. She was a lawyer. She was like, proud of herself and all this stuff. And then here she tends to take it kind of a little unserious enough. And I don't know, John, like, he was one of the reasons that the X-Men are even still around, because he saved the X-Men back in the day. So he knows that higher concepts sell books. I don't know why he went this kind of route with the book. So for concept, I only gave it a 2 because just I don't like the campiness. I don't think he picked the proper character for this style of book.
Okay. Well, you made some good points, I think. I think we'll have a little bit of a disagreement here down the line, but I think you made some good points.
Us disagree?
As usual, Dave, straight shooter, right from the hip, hits you right between the eyes with the 6-shooter. So I appreciate your honesty and, of course, your insight, sir. All right, let's keep going over to the left here. Let's go to the Lord of the Lexicon here on the show. Gino Presents. What say you about this concept? Are you in Dave's camp, or do you have another spin?
Well, I'm thinking about this concept a little bit differently. I'm thinking about more of this concept less on story and more on actual book. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. So the most basic concept here is this is one of Marvel's famous relaunching a #1, as they are so want to do, on a character who never made it well before. They tried her a lot of times. They tried her in solo series. They tried her as Avenger. They tried her as a Fantastic Four as a really low ball thing. It didn't really work too well. It wasn't real popular. But this was the 90s. They could put anything out there and still sell 500,000 copies of it. So they figured, why not? I'm sure John Byrne says, you know what? I got a little extra time. I want a little extra cash, like an extra credit assignment. Let's just relaunch a series. I'll take She-Hulk around with her. All right. So I don't give it really high marks for it's just a relaunch. They do change the character up quite a bit. I'm not sure if it's for the better or not, but so really to me, it's just a relaunch, and I don't think anything too crazy with it. I will say that as Dave kind of mentioned earlier, that the tongue-in-cheek, you didn't see that nearly as much back then, and this is almost like a precursor to where they would start taking Deadpool in the later series, as they focus more on the camp and the ham and the ridiculous scenarios. The guy in the gorilla suit comes to mind, but that's for later. But yeah, so I mean, concept, I don't give it too high marks. It's just a relaunch of a C-list character, to be honest with you. I mean, no one was caring about She-Hulk back then that much. But they released, and like I said, they sold a lot of copies of it, just because they couldn't really say anything back then. Sold a lot of copies of it. So yeah, I'm gonna give it just for concepts. I'm gonna give it 2 because it just didn't really do anything too extraordinary. It wasn't introducing a whole new crime syndicate. It wasn't introducing a new hero. It wasn't introducing a new dynamic with the team or something like that. It's just relaunching a #1 again on something that didn't work the first time. So I was gonna go ahead and give this one a 2.
A 2. So you agree in the grade, essentially with Dave, although for somewhat different reasons.
All valid points, David.
But all valid. But you're correct. All valid points, and of course, very poignantly put as usual by our own Genome Presents. So thank you, sir, for that. Let's go on to the Macho Head and see what he says about this downright different concept.
Oh yeah, out there, yeah. Man, I feel like I am on the other end of the spectrum as far as the concept goes. I think this could be further from another run-of-the-mill reboot. I feel like the difference in tone and just concept of what was going on in Savage She-Hulk and Sensational She-Hulk, man, it's a big jump, a bold move. This, to current comic, if you're reading comics in 2019, you've seen the fourth wall break with Deadpool and Gwenpool and Squirrel Girls and all these characters. But man, I don't think when this book hit the shelves, that was real commonplace, And I think at the time they wanted to revamp a character that, fair enough, probably, I think a lot of people probably saw She-Hulk as a C-list character prior to this run, for sure, And I guess what I kind of like about this book is it seems like you got John Byrne, who I'm a big fan of John Byrne, and it seems to me like they just said, John, take the She-Hulk title and just go nuts, because that's what he did. He went nuts with this Sensational She-Hulk run. The inside baseball that happens throughout this series, it's not even your traditional fourth wall break like a Deadpool does, who's just commenting on the universe, the Marvel universe, like he's aware he's in a comic. She-Hulk is talking about like the editors and other writers, and it's really funny. She's having like a dialogue with the writers, which was I thought it was cool. I mean, like Dave said, he didn't think she was the appropriate character to put this gimmick on. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I think she held it fine. Big, strong, beauty. It gave her some charm. I definitely didn't want her to just be a female Hulk smash. So it made her a really charming character, I think. Bold move. I respect the bold move of it. I think it was really different than what people were getting at the time. Definitely, I'm usually not. I think comic book writers, for the most part, suck at comedy. And most attempts at humor in comic books fail. I'm not easy to amuse when it comes to comics. So most of the time, I'm just like, tell me a good story. Save the jokes for your open mic night, pal. Not in my comic book. But it doesn't really apply to this one. This one got me. The campiness was intentional. I thought it was fine. It probably didn't hurt that I'm mesmerized by the John Byrne artwork the whole way. That probably make me not dwell on it so much. But overall, as you can see, I think it was fun, outside the box, and I gave it high marks, man. I think the concept of this She-Hulk relaunch was fresh, bold, and I gave it 4.
A 4 coming from the comic / macho head.
Yeah.
Very, very well explained there, sir. And let me tell you, I think you're going to have a partner in your
a tag team partner. Yeah.
So I will go last, and now as an old timer here, most of the comics that I read were, you can start the timer, Gino, for me. Most of the comics that I read were of a serious nature, or at least they pretended to be, right? Certainly the superhero comics that I read, the mystery, the suspense, even the westerns and war comics all had a more serious. They wanted you to take them at a more intellectual level than, say, the Archie comics and Millie the Model, things of that nature. And this comic, to me, kind of bridged the gap between those two modalities. To me, the concept is well done, because there was, I think Kenny mentioned that this was something you just didn't really see. It's fourth wall breaking, but it's on the subtle note. She realizes that she's in a comic, but she doesn't go out and just advertise it. She drops hints here and there, and it's in the context of the story. And I think that John Byrne at the time had just finished Fantastic Four. He had a nice and really incredible run on that, in which the She-Hulk was part of that team for a while. She was on the Avengers for a while. And she had her own comic, which you see over here on the left. And that series, I think, ran 25 issues and had a gamut of goofy villains. So I think John Byrne saw that old series and saw the potential. And like you said, I think they just said, hey, we got nothing for She-Hulk to do. Go to town, John Byrne her, and make her a top selling title. And so that's what he tried to do, but he tried to do it differently. He tried to make it so that you would buy this comic and it would be different than any other comic at the newsstand at the time. And because of that, I think this concept does work. And this series lasted 60 issues. That's 5 years, which is not at all, I would say, a failure of a series, especially for this time when there were so many different issues coming out, and independents were really ramping up at that time. So I think he did an excellent job to really revamp a character. Maybe not revamped her by giving her new powers or a new cast or anything like that, but the manner in which she interacted with the reader was very different, and I thought very cutting edge. So for all the foregoing reasons, I absolutely am on point with Comic Head. I give this a 4.
4.
So
Right.
I think you can,
Good.
We're divided on this one, right down the middle here.
right
Two-
down the middle.
Yeah.
Yep. You're either in the 2 camp or in the 4 camp.
Right.
That's an easy.
Well,
That's
I'd
an
like to
easy
know what
3 then.
Pat thinks about it.
Okay, so now
And
let's
as you-
go to the chat. If you guys are familiar, or if you just want to go on what we stated, we'd like to know. You are our 5th grader. The chat is the 5th grader on Graders Notes. We want your input. What would you say about this concept? Was it just something which was really, the character didn't really fit and it was too campy? It wasn't groundbreaking enough, or was it something that was more cutting edge? It was something that was different, that was unique at the time, and that you think that this merited a better grade than just a little below average. I'd like to know what you guys think about this concept, and we'll give you a minute while these gentlemen start talking about other things.
Yeah, and if I may, while they tallied up over the course of the last, while we were giving our notes and our grades, some really cool homies hopped in the chat. I'd just like to give them a little thumbs up and acknowledgement, like Goat99, Kelsang Inferno, who I know is a faithful patron of Tom's channel, Caleb the Comic Smurf, our Greatest Notes alumni, the Gray Man, Haya Lucha Libre, Hialeah Comic Bro, C. Woodard, Ayo Chico, runs in the family, Indie-Runk, so JPL Flash. So man, a lot of cool people hopped into the chat. Appreciate that. And we
Oh,
see
Steve
some
Woodard's
good-
in here. The Shockmaster's here. Oh man, I didn't realize. I would have announced him if I'd known that.
And I know my grading time's over, but while Metarod was talking, we're talking about the context. Well, it was Unruly Simeon actually said in the chat, remember context. And it made me think that this was right off the heels of Watchmen, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, right?
Right. It was kind of
Everyone
a
was
darker
going
area.
dark.
But man, you guys keep talking about how like this fourth wall breaking thing was a big new concept and groundbreaking. No. That fourth wall breaking had been done quite extensively throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s. Everything from Superman like looking through a panel and giving them a wink, usually when Lois didn't find out that he was Superman, or like the Crypt Keeper in Tales from the Crypt, how he would always turn and talk to the audience and stuff. That's all fourth wall breaking. So this is not a new concept by any stretch. It's revamping an old concept.
I think it's Captain America number 289. I actually had that one signed. But it's got all 4. It's got like editor in chief, and the writers and the inkers all there on the cover of the of the comic book.
Yeah.
And I think they make sporadic appearances all through it. So it's kind of, but I will say that, I mean, they definitely made the character. It wasn't just a one-of thing. I all through the comic books, the walls getting broken at some point. So at least to keep that, relatively consistent. Now, I didn't really read the series beyond this back then. Did they keep that part of the character going? Did they keep her breaking the fourth wall and being tongue-in-cheek?
Way more so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Way more blatant than they did in
Way,
the first
way
issue.
more blatantly in that first issue. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she'll full on turn and have a whole soliloquy right to the audience in later issues.
All right. Let's go down the grades here.
Okay.
Ken, you want to write
and I
this
got
down? Are
my
you
abacus is ready.
our scribe tonight?
I am ready with the abacus. What do we
All
got?
right. Here we go. Unruly Simeon comes in with a solid 4. Model Vault with a 3. Hialeah Comic Bro, my brother from Miami-Dade, comes in with a 3. Goat 99 comes in with a high grade 4.5. Kelsing Inferno 3. And D-Runk with the Blue Wrench comes in with a 3. And Stay Puft 1983 comes in with a 4.
Wow.
Gray Man
Audience
is
members, you guys.
neutral because he says he hasn't really read it yet. And Ruz in the Family, same thing.
Okay, so let's see. So that gives us an average chat grade. Let's see. Let's let Jeff Comic 813, Cantonese Comic Wednesday. Let's let his vote count. So he's throwing in.
Nice square.
And Caleb.
4.
We both got 4s from them. Floridians. And Steve's coming in too. Hold on. We got some late returns here from the write-in ballots.
We got some hanging chads here on that
Hanging
one.
Chad.
Florida.
Well, and yeah, if Chad 90 was here, we'd definitely have a hanging Chad. So we got 2 4s and a 3.5 from Steve Whiting. Thank you guys. I
Okay,
appreciate
well,
you guys
that's
coming in
gonna
with those votes.
Matt
That means a
very-
lot.
All right, I don't even need the abacus now. So that means total grade of 40 divided by 10 votes. That means Concept got a solid 4.0 from the chat.
Wow.
And remind us, Kenny, which of the 2 graders put that grade on this concept?
You know,
To,
when
the
I
two
say I'm a
small
man of
figures.
the people, you know, it's not just a figure of speech.
All right, a little jab at our 2 other graders there, which I'm sure they will get me for very soon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Great job as always to the chat and to, of course, the other 3 gentlemen here. All right, so let's go back. Let's go right to the cover because this is something I'm very interested in to see what you guys think about this cover because it can go one of 2 ways if you know what I mean. So let's go over to one to my left and start with Genome Presents. What do you think about this cover, Genome? Is this something which is up your alley, or is this something which is more like Friday the 13th, part 3?
Well, let's get into the cover a little bit, shall we? First off, we're talking about a very striking cover. You know, they decided to go with the monochrome friggin' backdrop, bright purple, pink, whatever color that is. Not too good with colors, but so it's striking. It grabs the eye real quick. Highlighted by the what they call her, the Jade Goddess or whatever back then. So there's a nice contrast there. Of course, it's Byrne, so you know he doesn't do anything bad. Now, I like how he. I don't know if he traced it in there or he got the perfect She-Hulk cover number 1 that she's holding in her hand there. It looks really good in the miniature. So kudos on that one. But I'm a little confused on a couple things with the cover, though. I don't know if her outfit has like a yellow top that connects the neck to her. How can you put this nicely? Her chest plate there. There's like the yellow triangle there. I don't understand that. Is that a part of her normal uniform? I don't remember seeing that before. I know in the Fantastic Four uniform, it had like a white pieces on her costume, but this one has that weird yellow to it. So I don't know if that's like a coloring problem, but there's like a line drawn on her neck. So I guess it's part of her costume, but I don't remember seeing that inside the book. But she looks pretty damn good. I mean, it's hard to sit there and just draw a nice profile shot of somebody, or actually it's a facing shot here, but there's some problems with a little bit of problems here with proportion. Once again, her chest plate does not seem to match up with what her body's doing underneath it. And I thought that was kind of an odd choice. It's like they artificially enhanced her bust line there because it doesn't look like it's matching with what the slope of her shoulder and all that's going in there. And then, but other than that, it's not too bad. The hair looks exceptionally good. That's really tough to do, right? And he's got all the swoops and swirls. He gave her like Dolly Parton hair from like the early 80s movies here. It was it's a pretty impressive outing there, I have to say. But you know, not much else going on there, but it's not meant to be. This is supposed to be a dialogue, kind of a funny cover. So you don't need a big action shot or something in there, or you know, her lounging on a Caribbean beach. Actually, that'd been a good shot too, her reading the book on the Caribbean beach. But whatever.
There actually is a cover like that later on.
Oh, is there? Let's see.
Yeah.
I need to be on that. But yeah, it's pretty good. One of the big things for me as a comic consumer is a lot of times you're going after the not always the hardcore. I mean, a lot of your money is not in the hardcore collector segment. So covers like this catch the eye of, John Q. Public or Jane Q. Public. They're walking through the grocery store and they see the spinner rack. Oh, that just catches the eye. So maybe they'll pick it up just for that. But yeah, pretty solid. No problems with it at all. I'll go ahead. There's some minor nitpicks that we all want to. I'm going to go ahead and give this cover a 3.
A 3 from Genome. So just better than average, but didn't exactly knock your socks off. But very, very. I really like the way that you look at the proportions and the compared the shoulders to the bust line. I mean, boy, I tell you, if you ever need a tailor, we know where to go. All right, so so let's take another left turn and head over to Massachusetts and see what Comic Head 84 thinks about this cover. Is it just okay, or better, or a bomb?
Okay. This cover, which, by the way, this comic's been loved a bit, so let me just grab the cover itself. So there's things that I like about this cover and things that I don't like about it. I got some pros and cons here. The first huge pro is I'm a fan of She-Hulk. I'm a big fan of the She-Hulk character, and no one has, in my opinion, of all the She-Hulk that I've read and collected and all that, no one has ever drawn She-Hulk better than John Byrne. So the fact that you get a nice big John Byrne She-Hulk on the cover is a win. Great pose. I think it connects to the concept pretty well. We got a blatant fourth wall break kind of situation. I think does a good idea of giving you a kind of like a tip of what's to come in the book with this kind of message on the cover. Like Genome, I agree. I really liked the Savage She-Hulk #1 in her hand. I feel like the joke is clear and concise. Here's your second chance. They're holding the first issue. And if you don't buy it, she'll come home and rip up your X-Men. X-Men was huge at the time, probably the biggest selling run out there. I think it's also funny that X-Men was a Byrne project at the time, so he's not afraid of even like a little tongue-in-cheek on himself. I like that they use the X-Men logo as opposed to just regular font. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So all that was fun. The cons for me is, man, why put this outfit on her? I'm with Genome of like, you're looking at the yellow thing up top and the rest of the outfit, and it's disappointing that they didn't just put her in the standard She-Hulk getup, or at least something that we've seen before. I feel like that's a really awkward outfit for her. So that's a bummer. I really don't like the design of that costume, and I'm not huge on the color palette. This purple pink situation back here, I would have preferred a different color, and I feel like purple and green, we get that's the classic Hulk colors, but it really clashes, in my opinion, with the yellow and like baby blue logo. So the color scheme of the cover is not pleasing to the eye for me. I feel like it clashes a bit. So as far as like the concept, what they're doing, the concept, the She-Hulk drawing, all that is spot on. But just some of the overall aesthetic, the color and the costume is a little thumbs down for me. But I'm still going to give it a 4.
Very nice, Sir Kenny. Very nice. Boy, I think you really got just about every nuance there. You didn't leave a lot on the bone for Dave and me, but But again, excellent done. I mean, what a great analysis there, buddy. Great analysis. And a 4. Very good. Excellent. Well, I'm going to go next. And I generally agree. The outfit is probably the weak point here in this cover. It doesn't really do much for the She-Hulk herself. I do like this midsection here that, it's drawn very, feminine like, obviously. And you see the fist over here. You can tell that she has got attitude here. And notice, and of course the word balloons, I think are spot on, because, she did have a previous series that it was lackluster. Let's just go that far. Some issues were just downright unreadable, but the whole series was pretty lackluster. And he sort of winks and gives a nod to that. He also gives, as I think Comic had said, a little homage to his incredible run in the X-Men during the 70s. And again, that She-Hulk comic that she is holding up is, if he didn't trace that, he really did an amazing job, because I compared it and it is pretty much spot on. I think Gino said about the hair, every little strand, and the way that the length goes beyond her back, and you can see a little bit on her left and her right around her waist. Excellently done. I think the color palette kind of works for me. The purple, it's kind of almost like a muted purple. I'm a little bit colorblind, so I could be off, but to me it kind of works. It kind of accentuates the Hulk figure in the middle. But I even like the face is very well done. Again, pretty but with attitude. The lips, again, not red, but a much darker shade. Again, almost gives you that shade, that notion that, she means business. But the word balloons obviously state that there's something else going on here that you wouldn't see in a normal comic in 1989. So I like the cover a lot. I'm not crazy so much about the logo up here. It's kind of bland. I would have liked something that had a little more She-Hulk-like characteristics. The blue and the yellow really don't scream She-Hulk to me. And again, this collar is also kind of bothersome. But those things don't bother me that much. I think it's for a first issue that was on the shelf that you want to focus on the She-Hulk, and you want to sell the beauty of the She-Hulk and the concept. I think it works well. So I gave this a 4.5, gentlemen.
Very strong grade, 4.5.
Very strong, I think. Very strong, I think. I wish they would have gotten rid of that UPC symbol there, because that bothers me too. I don't like it how it covers a little bit of the art there. But anyway,
yeah, that's a good point.
That's
yeah,
another.
They should have inched her over a little bit. Yeah, you're right about that. There's plenty of room over there too. You can see it. It's Burn is the hair, like Necron is the webs, huh?
Yeah, I mean, geez, come on. That really bothers me. Of course, the UPC comes on afterwards, so that's why that sometimes happens. All right. So without further ado, Mr. Miracle Comics Dave, what say you about this cover, sir?
Well, first, it's not terrible. I'm a little biased on it because I know how good of an artist John Byrne is. I am a fan of John Byrne, so having such a static pose is one thing, I guess. I know he's capable of a lot more, but this comic didn't really, it had nice action sequences in it, and there's quite a bit of action, so I don't know why he couldn't have put some action on the cover rather than just having her stand there. It's a nice touch to harken back to the first She-Hulk series where she's holding the issue, and again to kind of automatically we already see fourth wall breaking right on the cover where she's talking to the reader about threatening to rip up his X-Men comics if you don't buy this book, right? The color you guys are looking for is fuchsia. That's the main color here. Obviously the logo, blue yellow logo, that's like this baby blue yellow, is a contrary color to fuchsia, so it's going to stand out. That's why they probably picked those colors, as well as that lime kind of green that she is going to stand out on that, so probably why they picked that background to really try and make the She-Hulk stand out much more. But yeah, the logo could be juiced up a little bit. I think it's good in that right away Byrne is setting the tone. He's like when she's standing here talking to you about the comic book while holding a comic book and talking about another comic book, right? You obviously know that there's going to be a lot of fourth wall breaking, and there's not going to be a lot of serious stuff going on in this book. And I think even the bright fuchsia tone of the book kind of sets that off in a more clowny kind of lighter tone to what you're going to buy. If this was like a pure black cover with She-Hulk and stuff, and then you open it up and have the same story, it would seem really, really weird. So the cover fits the story. She's got massive boobs, so I don't understand that kind of deal. It looks like she got like a big padded bra kind of thing for the cover, and then she, definitely reduces a cup size or two going on the interior. I guess that sells comic books that have large-breasted women on the front, but yeah, overall could have been better. I know John Byrne is capable of better, but it does really kind of give you a good idea of what this book is going to be contain and what it's going to be about. So I actually gave the cover a 4. I thought he did a good job, right? As eye-catching, letting the reader know what's going on. I would have liked to see a little more action, but she is pretty good. Like, you can't fault Byrne for anatomy of his characters. He's quite on it, right? Superhero anatomy of his characters. Remember, it's not realism anatomy. But yeah, just the big boobs really kind of throws me off with the whole thing. So I gave it a 4, or I would have given it even better, because it did do a good job of doing what it's supposed to do.
Wow. Okay, you heard it here, folks. A 4 from Dave. It does happen. Thank you, Dave, for that analysis. You're right. I think Byrne's anatomy, superhero anatomy, is second to none. Honestly, I can't think of a better, again, superhero anatomy artist.
Rob Liefeld's got that wrapped up, man. You
Oh
kidding?
well, there are exceptions to every rule, But if you want them to be actually walk on feet, you want Byrne. Trust me.
Yeah, if She-Hulk had feet, I want Liefeld to draw them. So I'm just saying.
There you go. All right, so let's go to the 5th grader, not the 5th grader in elementary school, in the chat, and see what our esteemed chat members say about this cover. Do you think that this is an effective cover? Do you think this is appropriate cover, or is this really not your speed? I'd like to know what the 5th grader, the chat, has to say about this cover.
Indeed. And speaking of the chat, some other great new entries into the chat. Edwin the Comic Jabroni's in the building. Kachung, my man, Kachung is in the house. The Comic Collector is also in the building. Smurf, and a couple of great comments too. Smurf threw in that if all Canadians are as genuinely awesome as Mr. Miracle, he's buying a coat and moving up north. I really like that one.
Come on up. Lots of room.
And Mike Syke had the great comment of John Byrne's version of She-Hulk is one of humanity's greatest achievements. I concur on that one.
So did I.
And also Lime and Grandpa Comics also joined us and have been hanging out as well.
All right.
So get great high marks for the cover too.
Let me tell you, we got, considering we had like next to no advertisement, these guys have come through big time. I am just so honored that they were able to come on Sunday night on an aborted Thursday night attempt and still come here and support us. That's the love, that's the generosity, that's the awesomeness of this community, guys. And I just want to say that if you are not subbed to somebody in this chat, let's make this a sub routine. No pun intended. If you're in the chat, you don't know, you haven't subbed up to anybody on there, let's sub up. Let's show them love. Let's support those that are supporting us. It's important that we grow as a community, and that is one of the best ways we can do that. All right.
Absolutely. And hey, what up, Patrick? Skyrax Kelly's in the house and aggressively relaxing.
Oh man, I tell you, the good just keeps getting better.
Yeah,
right? Amazing stuff. All right, let's see. We start with Caleb. You ready, Kenny?
I am ready.
All right, Caleb, my man from Florida, starts strong with a all the way 5. Model Vault 4. Unruly Simeon, colors pop. Remember that catching my eye. 5 for the Simeon. Kelsing Inferno, effective but not a fan of her design, but he still gave it a 4. Goat 99 comes in with a 4.5. Hialeah Comic Bro, all the way from Miami-Dade, shoots in with a 3.5. Gray Man, plain, simple cover. The threat joke would appeal to me. 4. Jeff Comic 813 from over, I think he's in Hillsboro. 813 is I think the area code for Hillsboro. Comes in with a 4. Stay Puff 1983, 4 for the cover. Ka-choon! Hey, buddy. Great to see you here. Comes in with a 4. And I think that's it. Thank you, Comic Jabroni, for subbing up a bunch of the guys. I appreciate it. You, sir, are awesome as always.
Boom. Awesome. 10 votes to work with. That's great. Make that 11 because we just got Whiting throwing his hat in the ring as well. Stone Cold Steve. So
and Patrick Kelly also with a 4. And Steve Whiting with a 4.
Okay, so let's see.
I got a feeling they like this cover, guys.
It seems to be popular so far.
And that gives, maybe as predicted, an average score of 4.
All right.
Not bad for the cover.
Yeah. I almost gave it a 4 because it kind of bothered me a little bit, that outfit with that yellow neck and the logo. Really, that could have been done a lot better. But yeah, I just like Byrne's rendition of the She-Hulk so much that I couldn't get it down further than that.
Like that neckline there is so obvious, like way too straight. It's obviously done with a ruler. Like it doesn't look like bowling, you know.
Correct. It should have had a little more curvature.
Yeah,
I agree.
Around her huge boobs.
Yeah, Dave.
A little arc in there if you're going to make them that big.
Yeah,
we
she's
got
almost like
that already now.
She's almost like out as well as Moondragon here or something. Yeah.
Jeez, you guys are way too analytical. Let me tell you, which is why you're on this show. All right. Okay, guys, let's go on. Let's go right to. Okay, Kenny, your choice. Do you want to do the story or the interior art?
Why don't we go interior art?
Hey, what was the chat score?
4.
4. Okay.
Sorry. All right, Kenny.
I'm the keeper of the logs, so.
You're the keeper of the logs, yeah.
I do the postmortems when we get off air.
Kenny, lead us off with the story, buddy.
Okay, with the art, interior art.
I'm sorry, with the art. Sorry.
Interior art.
No worries.
Not listening.
And again, my coverless copy. Opening page. Awesome. Love this opening page. Great title too. I love everything about this first page. I don't know if that's credit to John Byrne or the letterer who does like the title like that, but awesome. And then as soon as you turn that page, I mean, a stunning way to open up the book. Double page spread, a display of the She-Hulk strength. Unfortunately, the staple is kind of not in an ideal spot, kind of cuts off She-Hulk a little bit, but bam, Byrne lays the gauntlet down right off the bat. Now, let's see. John Byrne. He draws men, women, he's on point with the human superhero anatomy. But the guy really does have a great handle on drawing women, in my opinion. Great facial expressions. There's, you know exactly what's going on with that face of like exhale of a breath. This just perfectly executed to display that facial expression. I would say that you'd be hard-pressed to find a single, like, static, lifeless image in this whole comic book. The guy just knows how to draw, make sure everyone's body position is in a fluid, real way. Great use of shadow on this panel here, which actually foreshadows this use of shadow actually going to foreshadow my favorite 2 panels in this whole book, which we'll get to shortly. And I think this panel is a perfect example of you're not going to find really any lifeless images in this whole book, because right here the main attraction is She-Hulk and the Ringmaster. In your background characters, you got this guy leaning back in a chair eating a banana. We got the surly clown guy leaning on the table like that with his legs crossed. Like background characters that most artists would just write standing still. They're in the background. Byrne's giving them life. Byrne's making it dynamic. And it so shows, like, because Byrne didn't do the whole run. Oh, wow. So, yes, you notice, like, when you read those issues that he doesn't do, it's night and day. Let me just get straight to the favorite panel that I alluded to. These 2 panels. This 1-2 of the wagons coming at her. This panel of the shadow covering her face of the wagon coming for her, and then you jump to her smashing the wagon into splinters. I love that 1-2 panel. Great dynamic action, beautiful. As far as the cons, 0. I have no con as far as the artwork goes, and I'm actually gonna put the test out there. I want you guys to name me a page that you think is not a good looking comic book page. What can you find wrong on these pages? Because I find nothing, and I'm giving out the rare grade in my book of a perfect 5 for the interior art of this comic, because page by page, there's not one that I really find a flaw in. It's incredible.
Wow. The 5-run grand slam from the Comic Head. Woo!
Yeah.
That is strong and a half. Now I know why you wanted the art, buddy. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted to lay the gauntlet down to see. Point out the flaws to me. I need to know.
Woo! Woof, woof. Well, that's amazing. Wow. Okay, 5. Well, I guess I'm next in the rotation here. Well, Kenny, let me tell you, there's not a lot that I'm going to argue with you about. Again, Byrne, you know, his body types are so on point. Notice the strong man has that barrel chest, and yet and the fat lady has, you know, the girth and the slooping stomach there. That thin man there, they all have different body types to their, you know, their professions, to their roles. You got these 2 elephants here. I mean, these things look massive, and this one looks a little bit, you know, ornery. Very well detailed. The action poses, as you said, are amazing. I mean, I can't think of another word to say. He conveys motion and power like very few artists can. Here is where the She-Hulk was transformed. A beautiful statuesque pose there with, again, another body type of kind of a creepy, lanky guy. Here you have the somewhat peeved Princess Python with the hands on her hips. And again, look at the expressions on the Ringmaster there, and those Fu Manchu kind of, you know, kind of sticky mustache that he has. This one I'm not crazy about, and I'll tell you about that later in the story part. It's just a ridiculous looking panel to me, but you're right, Kenny. I mean, this is on point. And that one that you showed here with the splintering of that wagon, I tell you, imagine the detail and the time that must have taken to put he even put the wagon wheel over here. He has the little harness there. I mean, he really sticks to the details. However, I cannot give this a 5, Kenny. And that is not based on Byrne. It is based on the inker, Bob Wiasat. I think he's a little too heavy-handed on those backgrounds. They're not as crisp and as tight as when Dan Green and Terry Austin inked him in Iron Fist and X-Men. So to me, I still don't like the kind of fluffiness on some of the characters. And look, a little too dark, and just, out of focus on some points, and I put that on the inker because I mean Byrne is absolutely on point with his anatomy and his tight pencils, but that is a very small retraction, so I give that a 4.5 for the art.
Oh.
So we are almost there, Kenny. We were almost there.
It's okay.
All right. Next in the rotation, we're going to the Great White North. Well, it's not white right now, but still great. And over to Dave, Mr. Miracle Comics. What say you about this art, Dave? Is this something that's up your alley, or is this something that you want to kick to the curb?
Well, you know, John Byrne is a master when it comes to illustration. I mean, yeah, right from that huge opening elephant page. And there's so much going on here, but just like Kenny was saying, like each character down here has got its own expression. You can tell what they're thinking in a way. You know, they're shocked. The strong man, he's kind of looking like, oh man, like, you know, I look like a fool now compared to her. I mean, it's just a huge splash page. There's that, like you guys mentioned before, is that great shattering of the wagon. And you know, I wish that was a splash page. That one little panel was so good. Like, and again, lots of great comic interior art here. Even going back to, you know, when he's redrawing the Hulk's original story, the bombs and stuff like that, to the old jalopy he's got in the background. I mean, I can't fault Byrne. I don't think the inks are all as bad as what Metarog was saying. I think Byrne has a real clean art style, and it really helps whatever inker. If the inks get a little heavy at some points, it's probably because the inker was getting bored of having to put down such minimal faces and stuff. But Byrne has a really smart sense of that, right? Like he can put down a real minimal face. It doesn't have to have all the nose bridges and everything like that, but it looks good. Like it looks perfect.
Yeah.
His anatomy always looks good. He has a very, very distinctive style that he continues, and from panel to panel, that's the same character. It's the John Byrne She-Hulk. I mean, he knocked it out of the park with this issue. Some of the, you know, the great shots, this like triple arm shot where she's throwing the bars to capture the circus of crime guys, you know, it just makes it look like that's good. I love illustrations that look proper. I hate it when you have an illustrator and they're putting stuff in, and then it kind of seems like they're adding stuff as an afterthought. Oh, I better fix up this background, or I better do this, or I better do that, make it look better over here. That's kind of a, you know, I don't find that with Byrne. He always seems very purposeful with everything he's done, from guys sitting in the background eating bananas to whatever's in the foreground, right? Each line of this book has a purpose to it. He's setting something up. He's putting in a tone of something. He's setting up an establishing shot. I mean, he gives us even the obligatory, you know, through the, you know, crotch shot there. So yeah, I cannot, you know, I got to give it up for Byrne. I mean, he brought it with this issue too. There's some really, really great panels in here. I'm gonna have to give it a 5. I think it's better than most of his X-Men that he drew.
Wow. Wow. Hold on a second. I think I lost my breath there for a second. Excuse me. Did I hear a 5 come out of Dave?
Yeah, man. I can't. It's John Byrne. What am I supposed to do? It's 5.
Wow.
Like
5 is the new one.
Wow. Wow. That's, by the way, great analysis, Dave. Of course, I knew you would, because, you know, you Canadian guys, forget it. You know each other very well.
that's
So.
right. I found it over the other day. I was talking to him about
I know you guys hang out. So, but thank you very much. You know, again, I totally agree with you. I can't really countervene anything you said there. I do have a little bit of an issue with the inking, but you know, that's me. I have kind of, I'm harsh on inkers, but that's just me. All right, Genome. Hopefully we left something on the bone for you, sir. What say you about this interior art?
Well, what can I say? Right off the bat, this gets the highest score for me by far. And it's odd that when you have a noted artist who is doing your cover and he's also doing the interior, that the interior shots are a little more detailed than the actual cover. So, kudos to you, John, on that one. Interior looks great. Something that no one else mentioned that I thought was kind of interesting is a little background. I ordered this book 2 weeks ago and it's still not gotten here yet. So I had to read this off the freaking internet, like some sort of plea, but it's freaking bothering me. And I will not pull the site back up because it was starting to keylog me and everything else. So, full disclosure, I don't have it here in front of me. And I like to reference some of the things that I remember. One is I like how he draws the Ringmaster. As stupid and Mad Hatterish as that character is, I seem to recall him drawing him like in a lot of slanted shots. It almost looks like a funhouse mirror. So I'm almost thinking if like John Byrne was like, we're going to make this a carnival episode, and so they draw him in some weird like proportions and some weird like angled shots. I like that.
I'm showing one right here for you.
Thank you very much, as I can't.
And I think there's one other that you're probably talking about where he's right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think of. I think it's like a funhouse mirror when it shows a lot of his shots. So I think it's very fitting for the whole carnival-esque kind of backdrop we got going here. Action shots are second to none. Everything looks normal. There's no joints going the wrong way. I don't know. It's just like an economy of movement that he possesses. Probably from working in the industry so long, he knows how to draw these panels fast and accurately. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't take away anything from the interior art. I won't give this a perfect 5. It's not John Byrne's fault. I don't like the color palette, and I think some of that probably is on the inker and colorists themselves. Some of it just kind of washed looking, and I hate to knock the art on that. I mean, just because of that, I don't care for the art too much or the colors too much, the colors palette. But how much did John really have to do with that? Nothing really. So other than that, I mean, you can't really find any fault in this. And it's especially interesting that he took so much time on a #1 issue when they knew the book was going to sell, because it was a #1. It was the 90s or late 80s, whenever this came out. I think it was early 90s, actually. And it had an X-Men reference on the cover even. And, so they knew the book was going to sell. So they could have thrown some trash art inside. Let's think a la X-Force 1. And it wouldn't have mattered that much. It still would have sold as many. So, kudos to John and Marvel for allowing him the time and him having the care for his craft enough to go through this much trouble on a risky kind of proposition somewhat. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 4.5. The only thing I give it is the color palette and a little bit of the inks. But art is just stupendous in this book.
All right, Gino, excellent. I do agree with you. That's what kind of bothered me. Some of the inking and the coloring was just a little make things look a little blurry to me, a little off kilter. And again, I think John Byrne, we all give him a 5, no doubt about it. It's only those around him that I got dinged for, and I think your Genome is what you're talking about. But again, I'm grading the art. I'm not grading John Byrne, so that's why I can't give it a 5, because it bothered me a little too much to do that, and I think that's the same thing with you. All right. So I don't think we have to do too much math there. It's a 4.75 for the graders. So now let's go on to the chat. Now, I have shown a lot of the book. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it before. So I want to know what our chat graders are thinking about this interior art. Do you agree with us that this is just absolutely top shelf? Or is it just pedestrian work, John Byrne putting in for a paycheck? What say you?
Let me just go ahead and throw this out there too. We do not do half measures here at comic or Graders Notes. We do not do 0.75. We don't do 0.25. We either do a 0.5 or we go up. So I'm going to go ahead and raise my score to 4.75, which will put us up to a 5, I'd say, for the overall. Because, we can't be on the fence like that, can we?
Sure we can. Sure we can.
No, I mean,
if we round it up, it goes to 5. Yeah. I'm just saying 4.75 is the, technical, average. Yeah. But yeah, that's a 5. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I was a hair's breadth from a 5. I really was.
It's close.
If it wasn't because it bothered me to the degree that it did, I would have given, because John Byrne, I would have given him 10. I mean, like Kenny said, there's nothing wrong with anything he did in there. But the inking and the coloring, a little substandard.
And you know what? In defense of the inking and coloring, of 2 of my favorite panels that didn't really get the love was when I'm sure the script just says Ringmaster hypnotizes crowd or something like that.
Mhm.
And, I love that panel of the effect they did with that color scheme of the Ringmaster and how they portrayed that. And I love a good use of negative space, man, and the way they showed the mesmerized crowd along like that white open space there was really cool.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
like the white out of the mind,
Yeah, yeah.
Dead air.
Yeah, that was
That
really cool. I love that.
mesmerizing effect. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's see what our amazing chat tonight is saying about the art. Ready, Kenny?
I'm good.
All right. I think we're going to be happy here. Model Vault votes 5. Unruly Simeon, of course, comes in with a 5. I know he's a big Burn fan. Hialeah Comic Bro, 4.5. Chris Barrett, 4.5. Steve Whiting, 4.5. Then 4. No, you can vote 0.5s, Chris. That's okay. We were just talking about when we round up on our grades. Goat 99 comes in with a 5. Stay Puff comes in with a 5. Wow, guys, I think this is like probably the highest chat grade that we've ever received for anything.
Well, the interiors.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
came to 4.78, which means we round up to we got a 5 grade from the chat on the art.
Wow.
5s all around.
Wow. Let me tell you guys, when I first chose this comic, I didn't think it would go that high. I thought it was good, but boy, you guys surprised me as always, man.
Tell Bert
Yeah,
put a lot of effort into this.
A good question here. Goat 99. In 1989, was it worth $150 for the original cover price?
Hell yeah.
Yes, it was. I bought this off the stand, and let me tell you, I didn't even worry about the price because it was just so good, especially compared to X-Force 1. So
I bought
yes,
this
it's
off the
definitely
stand
worth the
as well.
price.
I
Dude, are
remember buying it.
You crazy? You could have took that 150 and bought Sleepwalker #2, man. You'd have been much happier.
Hey, I'm a fan of Sleepwalker. Now don't be dissing Sleepwalker.
Hey, I'm a 90s collector. I can tell you all about Sleepwalker. He's good fun.
Okay.
He was going to be the next
All right.
big thing, man. You know it. Him and
I may
Speedball.
choose that next round. You never know. All right. So I think we only have one more category than the overall, and that is the story. And I guess it's my turn to be on the button. So let me go through the story. This, I thought, was the weakest part of this comic. Now, Byrne, I believe, is, to me, the best writer, artist out there. Okay? To me, he is, right? A lot of people will argue that, but to me, he is. But the story, it wasn't really that groundbreaking. Yes, she is being tested because another entity wants to use her for a nefarious reason, and they don't want to get their hands dirty. So, the book goes through various tasks that she's doing, and how that they accomplish that, and how she eventually overcomes the hypnotism of the ringmaster and so forth. But the problem I have with the story here is that parts of it make like little sense to me. Like, for example, I was telling you this before. Of course, you want to have, if you are an entity that wants to have some kind of alibi, you want to not get your hands dirty at all, right? But yet later on, they do intervene, all right? So, I mean, why do it if you're going to be exposing yourself eventually? And then this panel here, where they hypnotize the stand here, and then she picks up the whole stand. Now, unless this is made of adamantium, she's going to go right through that stand, okay? Because there's no way that all those people and that weight is going to be able to be held by this little area. I mean, it's just physically impossible unless you have a metal which is incredibly, or some kind of substance which is incredibly strong. They didn't say anything about that. Now, I realize this comic was supposed to be taken tongue-in-cheek to a great degree, but this could have been done differently. Over here, when the elephants were being lifted, at least this looks like some kind of incredibly strong metal platform. Okay, and they even notice that, oh, it's hard to grip this because, you know, it just is. That's the weak point right here, is the grip, and they note that. Hey, that physically makes sense, but to do this, and why? To get $37,000 when they're paid $3 million just to test her. It's not worth the risk. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then then in order to hide her identity, they turn her into, you know, this modelish looking Amazon. By the way, this guy is really creepy because, you know, the way that he transforms her kind of lets you know that he, you know, got a little too friendly with her. Okay, and again, that's kind of in context, but I could have done without that, you know. So again, you know, after that, it's pretty much standard fare. She breaks out. She realizes who she is. She defeats them by throwing these rods and capturing them, a la, you know, pulp kind of climaxes. Again, nothing really groundbreaking. Nothing really, you know, that, you know, nothing so great. In fact, this particular plot has been done before in the Defenders. So but I did like the whimsical tone of it. I did like how they introduced her origin and Hulk's origin. So I did give this a 3, and that is my grade.
3.
Yeah, that is what I say.
Slightly above average.
Slightly above average, and I had to kind of finagle it to get it to that point. All right. So I am going back around to the beginning, and I guess Dave, you are next.
That would be me.
That would be you. What say you about this story? Is it a Scribner's delight, or is this, you know, something that you should throw in the bottom of a garbage can?
Well, I'm gonna file this one under G, I'm afraid. As good as the interior art is, the story is so lame. Like, oh, it drives me nuts. Like, it's like we have these stories, and the dialogue, it doesn't sound like two people talking. It sounds like one person talking to themselves. Like, it's obviously John Byrne having a conversation with himself. And I find the dialogue very, well, what should we do? Well, let's go do this. Well, how can we do that? Well, we're the same person, and we're just talking to one another. And it's so I don't like the dialogue. I don't like the way he writes dialogue. John Byrne really needs Chris Claremont for a dialogue. And the whole concept of the story, just like you said, like, they get hired by this mystery character, but then all of a sudden this mystery character is showing up to save the She-Hulk from the guys that he hired to stop. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Right? Why doesn't he just contact these guys and be like, hey, bring her over, get her ass over here, right? Like I hired you to do. Why has he got to go there and save her? And then Bernie does the thing I hate the most. I hate it when comic books or movies do this. It stops being a She-Hulk comic and starts being a Glamora comic from here on out. Right? Mm-hmm. She-Hulk isn't back into it until the end. I get friggin' 12 and a half pages of Glamora comic. I don't want to see Glamora. I want to see She-Hulk. I don't want to see She-Hulk on robot control from the Ringmaster's powers. I want to see Jennifer having proper dialogue and doing things. So boo Burns. Like, and then again with the campiness and let's go and retell her story, and then he starts retelling the Incredible Hulk story, and then no, don't do that, but it was obligatory to get that in there, and it just, then there was the mystery of who pushed the wagon, but that just kind of panned out. Oh, it was her in one panel, and they kind of dropped that whole thing, and the story went nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Even in the last panel, you're like, this is a big reveal, but it's not a big reveal because we've been seeing these characters in little panels throughout this whole book. Mm-hmm. So it's not a surprise ending in any way. And this Glamora comic, right in the middle here, yeah, I'm not happy about it. I don't like why would you change her into like this Red Sonja looking kind of Amazon-y chick, right? I mean, that thing with the whole lifting up the audience. That's just comic book physics, right? That's the kind of physics that makes the Incredible Hulk pick up an entire building from the corner, right? You can't do that in real life. It would be even hard, like your hands would punch through the bottom of a car if you just picked it up with one hand, because the sheet metal under there isn't even strong enough. But so I don't mind that kind of stuff. I expect that kind of comic booky stuff, but I really hate that the She-Hulk isn't really in it for about half of the issue. So I gave the story a 1. I thought it was terrible.
Ooh. Harsh. But you make some good points, and I agree with a whole bunch of them. You're right. In many instances, this thing was just it was an internal kind of monologue that just drove me nuts. But I didn't think it was that bad. But thank you for your very good point.
She's talking to the editors and stuff, but it really sounded like Byrne was trying to talk to the editors, right? Like, it was like an office inside joke conversation.
All right. So we got a 3 and a 1. This is not looking too good for Sensational She-Hulk #1. Genome Presents. Are you coming to the rescue, or are you continuing the downslide? What say you about the story, sir?
Well, I am like a deflated flotation device, so no rescue to be had here. This is easily the weakest part of the entire book. They try to make it tongue-in-cheek, and it's like the person who thought that didn't know the tongue belongs in the mouth, and then comedy comes henceforth. So they try a little too hard with the comedy aspect in this. And I mean, it works somewhat a little bit, and just only thing that works about it, though, is the fourth wall breaking. That's what makes it interesting, and everything else about the story is kind of blasé, to say the least. I do like the fact that she's in the circus. We don't actually, I don't think it actually goes over why she's there. But so they kind of figure a way to shoehorn her powers, her backstory, and all that within the first few pages, just by talking to her cohorts there, I guess. But I didn't really get that. But whatever. Yeah, it's just kind of, it's lighthearted. It's they tried to build some mystery. Is that Egghead in the background? And is that Dr. Malice, I believe, is the other guy? I'm guessing that is.
No, it's not Egghead. That's Morgan.
Oh, is that Morgan? Okay. I was just going by memory there. Once again, I had to briefly glance at this through the online viewer. So, yeah, the story it just didn't really go anywhere. It didn't really do anything. It didn't accomplish anything. You got some petty jealousy thing in there. And she was the person that pushed the wagon that made such a great panel at She-Hulk. And it's like, well, where did that come from? She was jealous because She-Hulk was stronger than her. Well, that's her whole bit, right? So, I mean, what was her name? Glamazonia or something like that, which is kind of a funny name, I have to admit. Yeah. Another funny thing I didn't mention in the artwork, I thought someone else might, is the artiste that does her do-over. He looks very much like Robert Downey Jr. does, doesn't he? If you ask me, with the glasses and the hair and the little goatee that he has.
A very creepy one.
Yeah. Well, he's slight of build and effeminate of character, but just, I don't know. It's a bubblegum story for kind of a bubblegum reader. Didn't do anything really for me. The mystery I didn't care about. Why they paying the circus to judge her in real life situations? Couldn't they just pay someone to follow her around with a telephoto zoom lens or something like that? I mean, they already know she's strong. They don't need to gauge that. Heck, she even says she can lift 75 tons on like the second page. So, I mean, what else is there to learn? I mean, they have a lot of history to go through. I'm sure a lot of news reports about her or whatever, something you can find. As an Avenger, she wasn't exactly a mysterious figure. She was a well-known public figure who was in the press all the time. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a bubblegum story. Light and airy. I mean, it wasn't a chore to get through. It did move somewhat, but I just give it a 2.0. I mean, real kind of bottom of the barrel for an issue 1. So
a 2.0 from Genome, and very, very salient points there, my friend. Bubblegum story indeed. Again, you're right. It kind of did have a flow to it, kind of a whimsical flow, but it could have been so much better with just a few little changes here and there in the way that the story actually was conceived. Could have been so much better. All right, coming up now, not last, but definitely not even close to least. Comic Head, I see a little smirk on your face there, sir. What do you think here? Is this something that you think holds muster, or is this something which is really something that you should consider putting in a slab and keeping it there?
Well, yeah, I mean, time to come down from this high that I've been on with all these grades and all this praise, because yeah, the writing brings this book back down to the reality of, you know, it not being a particularly well executed story or writing inside. I think a lot of you guys made great points. I think, I can, for a story like this, I can forgive, a lot of the campiness, the logic holes, the suspension of disbelief on a lot of things. When you're setting the tone of it being, kind of campy and the whole fourth wall gimmick. I'm not really coming to a book like this for that, that kind of stuff. So I'm fine with forgiving some of those things. But what I was really disappointed with this book in was on a character's #1 debut issue, to Dave's point of having her look and be named a completely different character for more of the book than she is She-Hulk, I think, when you break it down, was a confusing move. Who thought that would be a good idea for someone who's new to the She-Hulk to experience her as this redheaded white chick called Glamazonia for most of the book? Was disappointing. I signed up for a She-Hulk comic, and that's what I wanted to get. I did. There were some it was more of the execution, because overall, I like the idea of her dealing with the circus, like the ringmaster hypnotizing her and having her spill her guts on her origin story was clever. I thought it was actually smart to give Bruce Banner the Incredible Hulk's origin story in this, and then just kind of pass it, and then in real quick just say, and by the way, I'm his cousin and I got some blood from him. But that was cool. Acknowledge the Incredible Hulk, because her origin is really tied to his. So I thought that was a good move. I like the sporadic, elsewhere pages that we got throughout the book that let you know there was a more ominous faction pulling strings. I thought it was well done and kept a good beat with the story. They would only get a 1 page at a time throughout, so I thought they teased it well without dwelling on it. So all that stuff was cool, but yeah, nothing really to write home about. And I would have, again, going against my natural inclination of I'm not big on fourth wall break type stuff, but in this I would have wanted a little more, actually, because I've seen what they can do with it in later issues, and I would have said, hey, set the tone right now and have her do a little more of that stuff, because I think they didn't even really show what they can do with that in this issue. So I thought that was a missed opportunity. And lastly, the headmen. I hate the headmen. I don't like any of their looks. This guy looks too silly. The red orb head is too silly. I guess the gorilla guy's cool, but I really don't like the headmen. So it was disappointing to see who, in fact, the guys pulling the strings were. I was like, oh, we have that to look forward to. Kind of a bummer. So my overall stamp on this thing is just straight down the middle. Of 2.5. I think 2.5 is where I'm at with this one. Average.
Excellent points. Yeah, I think that that Byrne tried to get kind of the sillier supervillain teams, because he's sort of laying the groundwork for the tone of the book. But I agree with you. I would have liked more than just a little reference here and there about, oh, you're going to know about what the end of the book is before I am. It seemed like it was too subtle. I would have liked, considering the cover, I would have liked something a little more stark. Yeah, good point there, buddy. Actually, good point.
They should have gave her a villain to fight. Even the New Warriors got Terax in their first issue, for goodness sake.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit too. Yeah. But yeah. All right. But before we get to that, before we get to the overall, let's go to our fifth grader chat team. And okay, I know that perhaps a lot of you have not read the story. Okay. But if you have, or if you just want to go off what we have said here, I think we've done a pretty good encapsulation about what the story's about. Even if you haven't read it, you're feeling daring, send us a grade. Tell us what you think. If you've read it, yeah, and you've survived, great. If you haven't and you just wanted to go off what we said, we'll take that too. But we want to know what you think about this story.
And while everyone's tallying their votes up, don't forget to smash that like button. Helps all of us creators not only to be noticed, but it helps the algorithm as well. So make sure to hit that like button for any DH channel this is ever broadcast on.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And I think Mr. Miracle already has stated that previously. So thank you, Dave, for helping out Kenny here.
Yeah. That's
Appreciate it.
story, man.
Yeah, I know it really is it's a wet blanket.
It's totally a wet blanket. Like literally after she gets hypnotized, she doesn't have any more lines in the comic book. She doesn't say anything else. Like she talks, she says her
Weird,
backstory, and then she becomes this glamour girl, and then that's it. No more dialogue from She-Hulk for the next 12 pages.
I'm getting a
Very
lot of
confusing decision.
car model references here. I'm not sure what that's about. Land yacht, Cadillac, Lincoln, Buick, Oldsmobile, Saab, and Chrysler.
Oh, we're talking about my old vehicle. We were talking about some of Bender's most famous words. He has 10 most used words in one of the episodes. One of them was Pitmobile. And I was explaining that I used to have a Pitmobile. It was my 81 Buick Regal. And
Ooh, I had a 78 Buick Regal.
Did you? I was beating him off with a stick. It was two-tone cream and brown. Oh, man, that thing was gorgeous.
Mine looked like the color of She-Hulk.
This end guy, this
kind of
leader,
like metallic green.
Dr. Negan guy. Is that what Negan was doing when he was before the zombie apocalypse? He was a half monkey guy, cruising around taking out superheroes.
I don't know. Maybe.
You guys don't read The Walking Dead, apparently.
Negan or Negan?
Negan.
Oh, Negan. All right. All right. Let's go to the grades, guys. Let's see. We start with Unruly Simeon. Gives it right down the middle, 2.5. Oh, Kenny, you ready? I'm sorry. You ready, buddy?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
2.5. Gray Man says that they should have brought back Elephant Man. I think it was actually Man Elephant.
Oh, you mean Joseph Merrick, or you mean the... Okay.
No, I think it was... She had a villain in her original series called Man Elephant. Totally ridiculous villain. So he gives it a 3. Chris Barrett, 3. High LA Comic Bro, 2. Goat 99, 3.5. He's a bigger fan than we are of this comic. Jeff Comic 813 gives it a 3, and Stay Puff 1983 gives it a 3.
You know, the perfect villain could have been for her is like Titania. What a perfect villain that could have been for her first episode. They're both like equally matched in power level. She's a big bully kind, and Jennifer's more the nurturing kind of stick up for the little guy. Would have been a great freaking thing. They could have torn the whole carnival to pieces. That'd have been much more interesting. That's just my thoughts.
You're making way too much sense, Gino.
She fought a damn wagon.
Yeah, the wagon was the biggest threat there.
Right.
You know. All right, I think that's it. Unless somebody wants to come in with a extra inning vote.
All right, that brought us to 2.8 average. So we run that up to a 3. Jack gave it a 3.
Wow, I'm kind of surprised. Actually, I'm kind of surprised. I thought I was a little high after hearing you guys. You guys kind of convinced me to kind of put it down a little bit.
Give it a score that high, yeah.
Yeah, but I see things with rose-colored glasses sometimes, of course. But I thought it was kind of okay because the villains were goofy. It didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, if you want to have a serious tone, then don't be consistent. But to be serious, then to be campy, then to be serious again, then to be campy, it kind of off-put me a little bit. I would have liked something a little better, more consistent, a little more structured. But what can I say? It is what it is. All right. So guess what, guys? We made it to the overall grade. And who? Let's see. We started with Mr. Miracle, right?
We did.
So we're going to end with Mr. Miracle. So an overall grade, we are not tied to our grades on the individual components. We have some leeway because of the way we do this. There are nuances there. So, Mr. Miracle Comics, what say you about the overall grade to this Sensational She-Hulk #1?
Well, like I've been saying, like from the beginning, this book is very bipolar, right? It's the dialogue seems like it's like one person talking to themselves in a schizophrenic sort of manner, and then it's serious, and then it's not serious, and then she's talking to characters, and she's talking to the audience, and then she's talking not at all, and then she's talking again at the end. I don't know. So the interior art is so good, and the cover was okay, right? And the concept was okay, and the interior story was so bad. So it really just went straight up the middle, and this bright pink cover staring at me all the time. 2.5 is what I was, kind of fell into that one on the overall, right? Wasn't a super terrific comic book except for the art, and it wasn't a super bad comic book except for the story. So 2.5 is where I landed with it. John Byrne, please find your good buddy Chris Claremont to do the writing for you. Have your friends write your comic books and they'll turn out better. You draw them. That's all I can say. And I'm a big fan of John Byrne. He is from here in Calgary. Like, he grew up here. He went to the art university here of Calgary, ACAD, the Alberta College of Art and Design at the time. I think it's the Alberta University of Art and Design now. So that's where his alma mater is from. And so I should have more rapport, but man, that story just killed me, John. You went to writing school because you had the art already, but you didn't need fucking writing help or drawing help. You needed writing help. You should have went to writing school. So 2.5 for an overall concept. Not super great, not super bad, because of the two really great, the really great element and the really bad element kind of just knock each other into the middle. And so I gave it a 2.5 for the overall.
All right, very well said, Dave. You're right. You had a real high in the art and a real low in the story, and they meet in the middle. So you stuck to your guns. Thank you for your honesty and, of course, your incredible insight on that little section. Of course, John Byrne and Mr. Miracle are buddies, so I know it hurts him to do that, but that's what we do in this show. We pull no punches. We don't care who you are. Right? We're going to give you the grade that we believe in, and that's just the long and the short of it. All right. Now let's go on to our fearless leader, the brains behind Grader's notes. Gino presents overall grade. What say you, sir, about that?
Are you saying I have the brain that can launch 1,000 ships? So that's a high praise from Caesar there. I'll say that much.
Joan of Genome.
This actually brings up a conundrum. Why did they never put John Byrne on Alpha Flight?
They did.
Did they put him on Alpha Flight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I wasn't paying much attention to Alpha Flight back then. I was just being facetious a little bit there, but anyway, let's get to overall score here. So I'll probably be keeping a little more closely to the aggregate score here. We'll just go ahead and run it down from the top to the bottom. So for cover, I gave this cover a 3. It's vibrant. It catches your eye. Say what you want about the color palette. It does lend itself to the random passerby who may, just randomly pick up a comic book outside of the dedicated collector. The interior art was definitely the highest score. I gave it a 4.5. Actually, I upped it a little bit, but just solid throughout. I had a few problems with a couple of the inks and colors, but I mean, other than that, that's not the art's technically fault, but it's all condensed into the same kind of category. So yeah, I gave that one a 4.5. Real high marks. Looks really good. Actually, I think I gave it better interior art than X-Men 1, which is one of my other higher ones. So it's pretty impressive there for a character that most people didn't really care about, and I certainly didn't. Concept I thought was pretty weak. I gave it a 2. It's just that for me, I know they tried to do something different with this character, but I just mostly consider this selling. They weren't really selling the character. They were just selling a #1 issue, and if people bought it, great. But then they did something different with her. I think maybe she was a trial in case they wanted to move more popular characters in more of that direction, that more sarcastic 90s, NUE or whatever that you have that was so prevalent back then. So, but I thought the concept was pretty weak. Like I said, I only gave it a 2. I think it was just a rehash of an old idea with a new coat of paint slapped on it. Story is also pretty weak. I gave it a 2. Cornball, kind of ridiculous. Fourth wall breaking is the only thing that saved it, and they did it a little too much. I think they could have just done it with the cover, and that would have been fine. They didn't need to do it with the story within. There's no good protagonist, really, because she barely has any kind of speaking or development in this issue, and there's no good villain. I mean, everything, all the bad guys are pretty pathetic in this. There's no climatic fight. It does build a little bit of mystery, if you will. Like, this is something I think X-Force 1 did pretty well that a lot of people didn't give it credit for. I think it built a bit of mystery. You know, who is this Strife guy? They had 3 different stories going at once that had no conclusion whatsoever in that story. It makes you want to read on. But this one is like, let's find out who these guys are. Who's the guy in the ape suit, you know? So overall, I gave this a 3. It's probably more like a 2.5, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with the aggregate and just go ahead and give it a 3. You know, to use my word, serviceable. It's serviceable. It did its job. It just didn't do anything other than the art. It didn't do anything great. It didn't do anything too horrible, but the art definitely helped save this book, especially in the interior. So yeah, just kind of middle of the road, 3.0. And yeah, sorry, She-Hulk. I couldn't give you any higher than that.
A 3 from Genome, and he drops the NUE. All right. Now, that's not something you hear in chats nowadays, folks. Let me tell you that. Thank you very much for going by blow there on each one of the categories. I think based upon what you stated on your individual 3 is a fair grade, Genome. Thank you for your insight as always, my friend. All righty. Let's go to a little further up north, a little further to the east of Dave, and see what Comic Head 84 has in store for us as far as the overall grade on this fine comic. What say you, Kenny, about this particular overall?
Well, my overall take on this book, let's see. So, you know, concept, I really dig the concept. It's one of the high points for me. And, you know, I do think it's actually was a pretty bold move, because I know I would never imply that, like, this is the first time fourth wall breaking was ever done. I'm certain, and I know that there's lots of other examples of it being done here and there, like Mr. Miracle was saying and stuff. But as far as it being embraced and like really used, like, it wasn't just they did it every now and then. I mean, it kind of became one of the main, I guess, gimmicks. I don't want to dismiss it by saying gimmicks. I mean, I guess it's a gimmick, but it was one of the main things that was used here. And I guess I can't help but think about all the other issues in this series when I think of that concept, because I know what they did with it later on down the road. Like, I think it's like issue number 50, where, you know, they have She-Hulk spitballing of rebooting the book, and they literally have all these different guest artists that, you know, Dave Gibbons gets a page and he gives his idea. No, that sucks. Adam Hughes gives his couple pages. What would that look like? Frank Miller. Like, they do some really outside the box stuff that was like a fun read. And I don't think it was really embraced the way it was with the She-Hulk series on a mainstream title, you know, by Marvel Comics, really much before that. So I do give it much props for that. You know, in when I come to a book like that, I go to different books for different reasons. Like, when I go into my Batman stuff, I'm not going for a lighthearted, fun read. You know, I'm going for something different when I'm reading what's going on in Gotham with Batman. I want psychological drama and the whole bit. With She-Hulk, you know, especially with this series, I know what I'm in for. I'm going for a good time, maybe some laughs, great art, and I've always really dug the She-Hulk character. So I'm cool with it being kind of campy. That part was fine. The art is fantastic. Great stuff. So overall, I dig it. The writing was a letdown in this first issue for sure, and some issues in the future. I mean, it's not like this thing went on to become like a masterpiece, a masterclass in writing. It didn't, but I thought the gimmick was fun enough and the art was well done enough. For the burn issues, to be honest, like between 8 and 30, when he bailed from it for a while. I don't think I own any of those, and wouldn't even really want to collect them. I really just like the Byrne ones. I dug his stuff with it. So, and I think even on issue 31 when he comes back, it's a little drawing of John Byrne trying to put a number 9 on the issue.
Yep.
She-Hulk because he left at number 8. So just fun stuff like that. Anyway, with my overall grades, I'm big on keeping it to the numbers. The aggregate of all the grades that I gave was a 3.8. So I think that sums it up about right. Round up to a 4. I think that's my overall grade with this one is a 4.
All right. Kenny coming in with a strong, very fine on the 4. And of course, with incredible knowledge and aplomb, as always. So, thank you guys for your grades. Now I guess I have to bring up the rear, literally, and give my take on this. Well, I chose this book, so you'd think, right, that I like it more than most. That's not really why I chose it. I chose it because I thought the concept was a little different from everything else that we've reviewed in the past. Okay, so I'm going into it. I haven't read this comic in a while, so I went into it with, just a feeling that it was an enjoyable read. But my overall goes like this: the concept. I agree with Kenny. I think no, it wasn't groundbreaking as the only comic. But considering the times and considering how this character was, the dross of the Marvel Universe at this point, and, they essentially just tried a concept that hadn't been used in a while. And that the concept was really the focus of this run for a long time. And that's not something that you saw very often. So I gave it a solid 4. The cover, I think we've gone through this ad nauseum. Very well done, striking. It grabs his attention. Yeah, it has its faults, but it's the She-Hulk, its attitude, its homages, and its, fourth wall breaking, 4.5. Interior art, off the charts good. Honestly, there's not a bad panel in there. John Byrne, I'd give him a 10 if I could. I had to nick it a bit on the inks. It just, compared to his X-Men and Iron Fist work, it's just a little tick below my expectation for his art, or for art that John Byrne is involved in. The story, by far the weakest. It was inconsistent. It had nonsensical panels along with serious tones, and again, the story had very little flow to it. I think the villains, I didn't mind them that much. They were, again, part of the campiness, part of the kind of the smilish and the tongue-in-cheek tone of it. The character herself was changed in it, which I'm not a big fan of. I would have liked to see, of course, more She-Hulk herself instead of some kind of zombie for half the issue. But again, not a deal breaker. Could have been much, much better. But I still enjoyed it. It was still a read that I can say, well, I didn't hate reading it. All right, so I gave that a 3. Overall, I'm going just about in my aggregate. I would have liked to give it a higher grade, but the story just really lets this issue down to the degree that I had to really chop it, because the art is so outstanding and it's such a shining star here, but the story really kind of puts it in a bog. And because of that, I can only give it, just like my friend Kenny, a 4. You did give it a 4, right, Kenny?
Yep, he did.
Yeah, okay.
I did give it a 4. Yeah.
All right. I thought I remembered that correctly.
Yeah, we're on the same page there.
All right. So, lastly, while we discuss this, you in the chat, if you've seen this episode of Grader's Notes, or if you've read this issue, we'd like to know what your overall grade is, because you are the 5th grader. We're going to count you in this analysis, okay, and the totality of it. So I want to know what you guys think about what the overall grade is. It the aggregate, or do you bump it up for the art or down for the story? I'd like to know what you guys think about the overall of Sensational She-Hulk #1.
Yeah, buddy. And Unruly kind of makes a good point where he says, that he always took She-Hulk seriously as a character after her stint in Fantastic Four, and
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the weird thing, honestly, about this title is I I don't really take I never like overall I don't take She-Hulk as kind of like a silly, campy kind of character um, outside of this title. Like uh, this series of the Sensational She-Hulk is kind of an anomaly for the character because it's not like She-Hulk is this currently or after. You know, uh, it really is kind of like an interesting run that way. Um, and I'm kind of glad that she didn't, because as far as I know, she didn't continue to like break fourth wall and stuff beyond this run, right? I mean,
I think she had a few maybe in like specials, things like that, where she did something similar. But
hmm,
no, as I recall, this was the series. Now, in her original series, she didn't break the fourth wall per se, but it was a little on the campy, kind of corny side, especially with the very kind of derivative villains, from like Man Elephant and like the Grappler, just really substandard villains it seemed to me like they purposefully give her like the most lamest villains possible in that first Bronze Age series. And so this was kind of a progression from that corniness to campiness, if that makes any sense.
I think the Grappler got me too'd, so you haven't seen him in a long time. But it's a shame. I think that they could do a lot of good things with She-Hulk. I think I would write her as a tragic character, especially when she got to the point where she could no longer revert to her human self. Like the Thing was a lot of times written, he hid his pain through humor a lot of times. They could have done something similar to that because here she is with a successful career. She got everything going. She's intelligent. She's good looking, and all of a sudden, bam, she's the Savage She-Hulk all of a sudden. So it gives her a certain status as a superhero, but her regular life is gone. Who could she have a personal relationship? What if she wants a kids and a family and even a husband or a boyfriend? She can only date superhumans, at this point. So if she doesn't like the Sentry, who's she gonna date? So I would have wrote her as a more serious character, I think, and left the flippant stuff to more of the teenage characters. She was a grown up professional woman, and I think they could have. I would have taken her down a little bit of a darker side, I think, with her, much like her bigger brother. Look how ostracized he is. No one wants to be around him, even though he's technically a good guy,
Good point.
yeah, the lawyer career is kind of fun to explore with her. I forget who wrote it, but I have some of her. I read some of her stuff in like a later run from the 2000s, and it was a lot of her being an attorney was like a big focal point of it, and I thought it was pretty well done. She's got potential.
She did actually in this series even use some of her skills as an attorney, some of her knowledge, like when villains and so forth. She sort of gave a nod to rights and to procedure and things like that. And by the way, Genome, she did date a normal man in Fantastic Four, Wyatt Wingfoot.
Oh, the pilot, yeah.
I think he was a American Indian.
Yeah, he flew their Quinjet or whatever that thing was, wasn't it? Wasn't he the pilot?
Fantastic car.
Well,
but
I don't even want to get into the logistics of that. But geez, how is she going to date a normal human being? She couldn't even hug the guy. She turned him into jelly. I mean, she's almost like Rogue. She can't get close to a regular human and have a normal relationship.
Unless she has great control.
Yeah.
It would be dangerous for sure. Yeah. All right, Dave, you got anything to add, buddy?
No, I'm good. I think I've said all I need to say about this issue.
He looks emotionally drained over there.
Your silence speaks volumes, my friend.
Oh, by the way, everybody, I don't know if we brought it up earlier in the episode, but the reason we didn't do this Thursday, we had some technical difficulties, and we're sorry we didn't advertise it. We didn't know for sure we were going to do it today. Just kind of the stars aligned, and so we decided to pop on. But you'll have more notice for the next show, so we do apologize for that.
Yes, thank you, Genome. You're right. I forgot to state that we, me mostly, had an issue. I could not get online, could not get into Google. So, well, all right, looks like we're fading fast. So let's get the grades in here. Hylia Comic Bro. Oh, you ready, Kenny?
I'm good to go.
I always get you like as an afterthought. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, I'm on the ready.
3.5 for Hylia Comic Bro. 4 for Unruly Simeon. The positives definitely outweigh the negatives. Chris Barrett comes in with a 3.5. And Goat 99, 4, like Bobby Orr. Go Bruins. I guess he's a hockey
Oh
fan.
my gosh.
Mike Syke says 3.8. Well, can we round that up to 4? He says the entire series 4.8, especially the latter half. Yeah, I agree. The latter half was actually not bad, actually. Let's see what else. Chad says She-Hulk is 90. I don't think that's a grade. That's one of his taglines there. And that's it, guys. What do we got, Kenny?
That gives us 3.8, which we'll call 4, which Jeff Comic 813's vote will pretty much further cement that you just put in of 4, man.
All right. Okay, great. So another episode is in the books, gentlemen. And now it is time to announce what we're doing next time. Kenny, I believe this was your choice.
You're picking.
It was. And
take it away.
I don't have without one of my Graders Note buddies have the actual book in arm's reach because I don't right now.
I got it right here for you, buddy. I got your
the
back.
gold version, baby.
Oh, look at Gino with a second print. Look at that.
Yeah, let me put the camera on Metarog's screen. You're looking at it, baby. New Warriors, #1. Yeah, we put a couple. It's funny because usually we do like a little bit of a vote. So I threw a few books up. This was on there, and I got a resounding yes vote for New Warriors 1. So we're gonna have some fun with this one. I'm interested in reading this one because I dig the New Warriors, but I will admit that a lot of it is based on nostalgia. I loved the New Warriors back in the day. Night Thrash was one of my favorite comics, favorite characters. Speedball, I actually really dig Speedball.
Here he comes.
Did anyway, out there. When I got back into reading, a few years back, I did revisit a bunch of stuff, but not New Warriors. So I haven't opened a New Warriors book in years. So I'm gonna look forward to cracking this baby open, seeing how it holds up, and we're gonna do our Graders Notes thing on the New Warriors #1. What year did that come out, guys? Is that 1990?
1990 on the nose.
I don't know about yes there, Kenny. Like, you guys all had chimed in, and I was like, fine, I'll do the New Warriors.
Yeah, well, that's the fun of the show. I feel like even I don't think the people necessarily want us to come in and gloat about a book every week. So, I think people were into your
stuff, right? Like we want to.
Now, there's been very little gloating in our reviews overall. I mean, this has been one of the better ones, but that first episode, oh man, oof.
All 3.5 hours of it.
That was a marathon and a half of Liefeld hate, but
people love that stuff though.
All right, Kenny, so you're on the button next time, buddy.
You got
it. All right, everybody. Any last words, folks, before we get out of here?
That's where usually we'll go through and have everyone say what projects they're working on if they have anything new coming up. So since it's Kenny's side, I think he should go first.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, you know what? Just keep an eye out. I don't know. I'm winging it. I think we'll do on the Comic Core channel tomorrow, talking Why the Last Man. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for this show. Me backed up with my Graders Notes buddies in 2 weeks.
All right, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Genome, besides your incredible reviews, what else do you have up, sir?
Actually, for those interested in a dissertation, long-winded, of course, of the New Warriors #1, I actually have a video I did of that a couple months ago. I think it's in my Comics Nostalgia section on their playlist, so be sure to look for that. I do some fancy editing with some docking. That's kind of interesting. What else I got? I am fixing to buy a new moto cam set up so I can start doing some moto vlogging a little more extensively. I'm going to take some pretty long journeys on the motorcycle. So hopefully to record that. I may start a new channel for that. I'm not totally sure yet. So other than that, I'm working on my next Friday the 13th film. I'll be watching that and then starting to edit that next week. So hopefully by next weekend, I should have a new one put up there. So for those of you who haven't seen it, go over and check out the reviews. I'm already 4 movies deep, so we have about 7 more to go. So that's about it for now.
Well, thank you very much. And those reviews are, to me, must see. I enjoy them immensely. I never miss them. I think I'm one of the first who always, as soon as I get that notification, I'm hitting it because you do a great job recapping those and giving us snippets and giving us a little insight that even I didn't remember. So good job there, buddy.
Oh, and speaking of that, I need to get into doing some of the older superhero movies. Comic Cat actually turned me on to that. So eventually I will do the original Superman. I'll do like the original Punisher, the 89 version with Dolph Lundgren. Most people have never seen. And then maybe some of the really far out ones, like the Captain America one that was made in Mexico or whatever back in like the late 90s. That's really awful. So yeah, that stay tuned for some of that too eventually in the future. Forgot about that.
I can't wait for that because I have some harsh opinions on that one.
I think you should. Those movie reviews you've been doing is probably my favorite stuff that you've been putting out. So
agreed.
Looking forward to that.
They really are must see. They really are.
Yeah.
If you guys in the chat and you haven't seen Genomes, you got to see it. You just got.
Right on.
All right, Mr. Miracle, what do you got up, buddy?
Well, I'll have my usual freaking 5 undervalued books coming up on Wednesday, of course. So we'll have another 5 ones coming up this Wednesday. And yeah, I think that's all I got scheduled for right now. But I'm in and out of live streams once in a while. I'll just kind of jump into stuff. And I'd like to remind everybody that a day without comic books, it's like night.
Incredible wisdom and oh boy, from Mr. Miracle Comics there. Thank you, buddy, very much. I enjoy your 5 speculation. I always take notes because I go, well, if Dave is saying this, I know it's going to be good because you're always on point with your specs. So I take that list around with me everywhere I go.
That's the old stockbroker's trick. They actually make make it look like a false run is going on in the comics to try to boost what they're already holding on to in value. So don't always fall for that.
Now you know my plan, my evil plan.
It's a master plan.
Hey, however it works, okay? It doesn't matter. The end result is all that matters, okay? At least in that realm. All right. So last, I'll finish up Thursday contest roundup. I usually do something else around it. Right after this video, I'm uploading a contest entry, and every Tuesday I do a special video. You never know what it could be. It may be a review. It may be a retrospective of some sort, or it may be just some off-the-ball, goofball thing that us old-time collectors do. So check out my channels on Tuesday, Thursday, and on the weekends. Gentlemen, once again, I am honored to be in your August presence, and we will reconvene in 2 weeks where we will then look at the New Warriors and see if it holds up to Grader's Notes scrutiny. Have a great weekend and a great week until I see you next. And in the chat, you guys are superstars, all-stars, shooting stars, and shining stars. Thank you for being with us, and join us again and honor us with your grades and your presence. For now, I will, again, and for all of this panel, I will say, everybody, be well, be blessed, and be back.